Jay Connolly, how to stand out in a good way during the resume and interview process. I've been working here at Jay Connolly for about 10 years. As Chantal said, I am a University of Delaware graduate, so I am more than happy when I see Delaware alums come across and looking for a position with us. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I notice about resumes and then come up for me in interviews as the recruiter. Hopefully it will share some valuable insights with you. First, the question I seem to get asked the most is cover letters. Do you send them or do you not send them? And how do I get in the initial interview? I would say you should send a cover letter if your qualifications for the role that you're applying for are not very clear. If you are a history major and applying for a position in public relations, I'm going to need to know a little bit more than just what's on your resume. You can send a cover letter to establish a rapport with the interviewer or the screener. So help me to learn a little bit more personally about you. When the first sentence of the cover letter is, my qualifications in X make me a great candidate for this position, blah, blah, blah. It's the same sentence that many people share. It doesn't tell me anything about you, and that's really where I'm looking to connect. So use the cover letter to do that. Be specific about the job description. Don't just talk about, I'm looking to apply at your company for this open role. To me, it looks like a form letter. So I'm more interested in knowing that you did a little bit of research and that you're interested specifically in this role at this company. Use it to explain any gaps that you have in your employment, if there's a change of industry or any other questions that the screener might have by looking at your resume. So if you've been, if your experience and focus has been on, fashion and beauty, well, my company doesn't really handle any fashion and beauty clients. So I need to know why you're looking to change gears. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next candidate who has a more clear expression of what they're looking for. Basically, just help me connect the dots with your resume to the job description. So if the job description is looking for these qualifications, tell me those things in the cover letter. And by all means, get to the point. Don't make it this big, long, thing. That's what the interview's for, right? That's when we talk and get to know each other a little better. So it should just be something that's, a couple short paragraphs, just help me get to know you, be interesting to me, and then, moving on to the interview. So some examples that I've gotten of cover letters, some examples I've gotten of cover letters look something like this. Like, this is a very long, I can tell you I probably read maybe the first few paragraphs and then stopped. This is not, to whom it may concern, you don't know who they're applying to. I'm very interested in the position available. I have 4 positions open now, so I'm not sure which one this person wants. If you're spending this time, I'm ready to start in this new venture, but you're not really being specific to the job. So here's another one. Please accept this letter and attached resume for your consideration. A combination of factors, including all of these things, would make me a prime candidate for the position being offered. What position? How do these things relate to the job description? Like, you're telling me a little bit about you in the second paragraph, but again, a little long for my taste. I'll probably read the first part of it. If it sounds interesting, then I'll connect. Otherwise, I'm moving on. This person at least knows who they're addressing, one of our recruiters. They're very specific about the position that they want at Jay Connolly. They'd be honored to apply their knowledge. Okay, now I'm interested as a recruiter. My experience in this internship allowed them to grow. So like, I'm engaged here, and I'm probably reading maybe all of this just because they've kept me interested along the way and shown how their skills and education are applying to the position that we have open. So resumes, how do you get the initial interview? A resume that is easy to read. This is the only document that you can have 100 people look at to look for spelling errors, grammatical errors, formatting errors, if things aren't lining up correctly, if you have periods at the end of some of your bullets and not all of your bullets. Most of the time they aren't even sentences. They probably shouldn't have periods at the end of them, but all of that should be addressed before you submit that resume to someone. If there's typos on there, it kind of is a disqualifier right off the bat. The things that are highlights that our eyes go right to as recruiters are the company, the position, and the amount of time that you worked there. If it's not clear that it's an internship or a temporary position or a summer position, help make that clear for the recruiter in that role. A lot of times we'll get company names, but we don't know what the company did. So if you just say, oh, I worked for ABC company for the summer, and this is what I did. Well, is that a manufacturing company? Is that a financial firm? Is it a grocery store? Like, I have no reference without doing further research on that. So if you can fit like just a quick descriptor about what that company is or what they do, very helpful. Again, temporary, let me know that. And does your resume fit the job description? If you have all experience working in customer service and direct customer service, or you've been working with children, that doesn't apply. All of the skills that you acquired there, I need to know how they're going to apply to the position that's open. So if you've been a hostess or a host at a restaurant, all through college, that's great. That's personal interaction with people, that's client satisfaction. That's all relevant to the job that you're going to be doing. If you've had to be organized and manage different people and juggle different priorities and things like that, like, we get it. You don't have the experience doing the PR role. That's why you went to college and are applying to us. But there needs to be some translation of skills. So the fact that you were able to, part of your duties was to, post the schedule weekly for the staff. That's great. I don't need you to post a schedule here. So how is that relevant to the job description? So just things like that. If you were responsible for managing that schedule, communicating that schedule to others, making sure that your team was organized, that's very relevant to the position that we're hiring for. These are some examples of resumes. This was for an internship. So I'm not sure, the jury's still out for me and how I feel about pictures on resumes. I could kind of go either way. This person was looking for an internship, very clear. But they say in their little blurb here, student of business school, passionate about politics and innovation strategies and the service of ecological transition, looking for a 6-month internship in public affairs or strategy department of your company from this time. Well, we don't have a public affairs department. We don't have a strategy department. She's just talking about some generic company. So I'm pretty sure this is just her standard resume that she's sending out. Might be impressive, but I don't know that she's really looking to work for our company. Either she needs to make this more generic or she needs to make it specific to the position that she's applying for. Another one for an internship. This one, really easy to read, almost too easy to read. It doesn't engage me at all. There's a bunch of education here that doesn't, like, things are kind of getting blurred in here. This just really isn't, there's nothing here that makes me want to further communicate with this candidate, because if this is how they're going to communicate with me, then how are they going to communicate with our clients? This is for an account coordinator, so that's our entry-level position. Same deal, like, looks nice. Education's broken out here. Economics department, okay. Country club, not sure. Enforce rules and pool policy politely and clearly to ensure the safety of patrons. How does that relate now to the positions that you're seeking? Obviously, you gained some experience from here, whether that was ensuring compliance with policies at the club and sharing that with the guests. But there's got to be a better way of wording this so that it lines up with the job description that they're applying for. And it's not just, hey, I attend to customers and perform credit and cash transfers with 100% accuracy. Great, we don't do any of that. So how is this relevant to the position that you're applying for? Show me where your skills might be. Here's another one example. Leadership experience. I like how this is broken out between leadership experience, internship experience, experience working with youth and children, although that part doesn't really apply to us, but it does, you know, kind of structure their resume in a way that's easy to read. So that might be a good example.
Hey, Rachel, we have a question from Jessica. She
Sure.
wants to know, how much is too much or not enough when it comes to making my resume visually appealing?
I would definitely stick to one page. So make sure all of your experience and everything can fit onto one page. It's not so much the amount of words, it's the quality of words. So if things are relating to the job description, if you're in the case of an account coordinator, if you're showing me that you're organized, if you're showing me that you've had experience being responsible for deadlines, you communicate well with your team that you're working with, if that can be emulated in, you know, 3 or 4 bullet points on a resume as opposed to 10 bullet points and explaining everything, that's fine. You really just need enough to engage the person who's looking at it. I can tell you for our entry level positions, especially, we're looking for folks who had an internship. Doesn't necessarily need to be in PR, but some type of actual work experience in, you know, the business world would be helpful. This person applied for an account coordinator position, and they're showing me that they have relevant experience here. None of these core skills are, well, except for maybe Google Suite, like these 3 at the end here. Certainly none of these are things here. Final draft, script coverage, AP stuff. We don't do any of that. It's just not clear that they're really looking for a position in public relations, that they're, you know, it seems like they have more film experience. She has a master's in screenwriting, so maybe more of a writing position. But I don't know about media relations. This might need a cover letter to explain to me a little bit more about why they're looking to make that transition. This one, again, all the skills that they're using, although they are using up a lot of space here to talk about this, I would rather see where these skills show up in their positions that they've had. That would be more helpful. It's also, let's see, move this out of the way, eager to learn and contribute to a team success through hard work, attention to detail, and excellent organization skills, clear understanding of the importance of a job on a human level, motivated to learn and grow and excel. We're missing some punctuation up here. I'm not sure, this would be better if they were complete sentences, but at least I'm engaged, I'm interested. I'm like, okay, like what does that mean? If there's a importance of clear understanding of the importance of a job on a human level, you know, like that kind of aligns with a lot of our values here. So I'd be intrigued to at least read the rest of this resume.
Rachel, we have another question from
Sure.
Bob. It says, can you please explain the difference between a resume and a CV? And then the second part of the question is, what should be the appropriate length of each of those documents?
A CV, I think, it has more description on it as far as the overall role that that person was responsible for, as opposed to the bulleted job duties and responsibilities. As a recent college graduate, I would say probably both of them at this point should be no longer than a page. Generally, we're only going back like 10 years with experience on a resume. Like, I've been out of college for a little while. I don't put every job I've ever had on my resume. I put those things that are relevant or that are most recent, so that we can see, you know, like where I've developed professionally over time. So that's what we look for in more experienced candidates. But if you just have an internship and some, you know, some summer positions, or you're working while you're in school and then you're finishing up school, all of that should probably fit on one page. I'm going to skip over these because these are for our account executive position, and that would mean you need a year or two of experience. It's basically the same. I'm going to say the same things for these. I want to understand, you know, where your experience has brought you and how it relates to the current position. The bottom line is, when it comes to applying for positions, is to do your research. If there are things that the company is talking about in their website, their core values, their you know, areas of interest that they have, things that seem important to them, include that, incorporate those skills and identify with those skills and values in some way in your resume, in your application, so that those are like trigger words for recruiters. They're like, oh, like I'm looking for someone who's team oriented. One of our values is it's we, not me. So we're very much about collaboration and you know, working together as a team. So that's something that if you can put that in your resume through your skills and experience, that becomes all more valuable. What else are we researching? Company values and initiatives. Whatever's on their website is what they want you to know about. Are you looking at the company's social profiles? What are they sharing with you? And what does the company want you to know about them? Who is the CEO or founder, and who are the other leaders in the company? Look them up on LinkedIn. Do you know who your interviewer is? How long have they been with the company? Where were they prior to that? Where did they go to school? I can't tell you how many times I've had candidates apply for a position. They went to the University of Delaware and they don't know that I went to the University of Delaware. And it's like an immediate connection. Like, I'm like, oh, like I want to talk about the Deer Park. I want to talk about Main Street and what it looks like now. So that's something that will help you engage with your interviewer and kind of set you apart from the other folks that they may have interviewed that day. Look at the LinkedIn profiles. Do you have any common connections, any common interests, maybe a place that they worked at or a place that they volunteered at? That information becomes helpful just in creating a relationship with the person who's interviewing you. And make sure that you prepare your cheat sheet ahead of time, so you have examples of your own experience handy, in case we all tend to ask some pretty common questions like, so tell me about yourself, and have your elevator pitch figured out, and tell me about experience that was really challenging for you and how did you overcome it. Make sure you have some examples of challenging experiences, because when you're in the hot seat and being interviewed, it's sometimes hard to recall those things, even though you know you have them, and you'll think about it later and say, oh, I should have said this instead. But if you have kind of your cheat sheet ahead of time, that's really helpful. Good questions to ask. Ask your interviewer directly. What has their experience been like? Why did they stay with their company? What attracted them initially? And was it what they expected? Get the interviewer to talk about themselves and their experience. That will help create a good relationship. What's a typical day in the role? This gives you insight as to what the company expects from you. So if they're talking about things that are a daily thing that is not something you want to be involved in, then that's the time to ask the question, how much time is spent doing that? I'm really looking for a role that's more focused on this? Is that part of the role in any way? And then you'll have a clear expectation about what your day-to-day would look like in that position. Follow up on specific things that they talked about so that you show that you are listening to them. So I always tell people that things like engagement and inclusion are very important to us. We have a number of remote employees and we want to bring everybody together. So follow up and ask me questions like, how are you engaged with your employees on a daily basis? Like as we're talking, I usually do my screening interviews on the phone. You should be taking notes on the other end to follow up with questions afterwards. The do's and don'ts. Do use the interviewer's name, make it personal. Thank you, Rachel, for your time. It was great talking to you. Just something to, again, try and solidify that relationship with them. Do ask thoughtful follow-up questions. Ask for examples of things. Do convey what's important to you. Is transparency important? Culture, benefits, whatever it is. What is your driving force for work? Why did you pick this industry? Why are you looking to work here? And what's the type of thing that you're going to still be like, this is a great place for me to work and I love it. Do dress for the interview. Always err on the side of conservative, whether you're on Zoom or in person. We can tell if you're wearing t-shirts. I would, just like I did before we got on this Zoom, like we got on and let me fix some things in my background, and I made sure that my hair wasn't sticking up too much, and close the blind a little, like be prepared ahead of time so that you can see what the interviewer's going to see and try and put your best foot forward. Do not be long-winded. It's okay to just say, yes, I have experience with that. Here's an example, and then stop. You don't need to like oversell, which I am personally a bit, I do that a lot. Do not say, I have no questions because you answered everything. Really? Because you're going to work here for like 40 hours a week for the next at least few years, if not forever. And you don't have any questions for me about the company or the position or the people that you're going to be working with. If we've started, like I said, if we've covered everything, you can say one of the questions I was going to ask was, what's your company culture like? But it sounds like you answered that when you said blah, blah, blah. And I'd really like to hear more about that. Just engage the conversation. And do not be late. 5 minutes early for everything. Only 5 minutes for Zoom, that's totally fine, or 10 minutes for in-person. I've had some people come for in-person interviews and they come they're there like 25 minutes early and they're just sitting in the lobby, and it's kind of awkward for the interviewer because I don't want to keep you waiting, but at the same time, I wasn't ready for you. I'm ready for you in 25 minutes. So there's still things that I'm working on. So if you come that early to an interview, you can absolutely find the front door and then go take a walk or go sit in your car and get yourself pumped up for the interview. But to wait in the waiting room for more than like 5 or 10 minutes is a little, I don't recommend. And do not trash talk any prior companies or bosses that you've worked for. I'm sure you guys are mature enough to know, how to talk about things in a way that, the other person can pick up on what you're talking about. We know we've all had people that we've worked for in the past that were not great, and that their values didn't align with ours, but we don't want to trash talk anybody that, say negative things about companies that we've worked for before. How do you talk about salary? So know what the salary range should be for the position. Do your research, salary.com, glassdoor.com. You should walk in knowing about what the range should be for that position in that general area. If they ask you what are you looking for in terms of salary, you can say, I'm looking for a competitive offer that includes benefits. I'd like to know more about the specifics of what this role requires first. So you don't need to show your hand right away. when I screen people, I tell them like, look, this is the budgeted range for that we have for the position. This is what the position entails. Is that what you're looking for? And I've had people say, no, actually, that's not at all what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this range over here. I was like, oh, okay, well, I can't afford that for this position. That's not been approved. You know, I can take it back and talk to the team and see if they're looking to make an investment. Or, you know, I'm happy to keep talking. And if we have a position that opens in that range, at least we'll have talked already and I can connect back with you then. But at least you're being like upfront and to the point. The worst thing is getting, you know, going through a whole interview process and not having any idea of what the range should be or what the range is for this specific position. And then you get an offer letter and you're like, this isn't even close to what I'm looking for. And then you're trying to negotiate then. It's like, well, I can't. You know, I only have a window that I can work within, and that's what, you know, what we're looking for. So it's better to get that upfront, you know, so that you're both clear. Thank you notes. Always, always, always send a thank you note, preferably the same day as your interview. It is okay to email them. It is okay if you were on a group email to get all of their emails and put it on the same email, like thank you all for your time. Just try to personalize it as much as you can. A form letter thank you is better than nothing, but if you can customize it in some way about something that you talked about, or if you remembered that better answer to a question that they posed, put that in the thank you note. I would say maybe 10% of people send thank you notes. If we get one, this is how it is. If we get one, I make sure to tell the manager, and they sent a thank you note because it really doesn't happen at all, which is surprising to me. But it's something that could really set you apart from the other candidates for that position.